Hello, targeting a market is the topic for this module of Professor Moylan's Marketing Essentials. There are 3 steps in the target marketing process. Step 1, segmentation. Step 2, targeting. And step 3, positioning. And we're focusing on the second step, targeting, evaluating segments, and deciding which to go after. And let's start with our definition of targeting. This is a strategy in which marketers evaluate the attractiveness of each potential segment and decide in which segment or segments they will invest resources to try to turn them into customers. These groups selected are referred to as the target market. A market can have a whole bunch of different segments, but you might take a look at all those segments and decide going after everybody. Or you might look at all those segments and say, well, I'm going to go after these, or I'm going to go after these, or I'm just going to go after this one. But that's the targeting process, figuring out which segments to go after. So you start by, breaking them up into segments. There are 3 targeting strategies that most marketers will go with, and a 4th possible one that's really more of a customized strategy. But let's first look at the non-customized strategy. The 3 potential targeting strategies are undifferentiated, differentiated, and concentrated. Now, an undifferentiated strategy, you go after everybody. A differentiated strategy, you go after more than one segment, but with different approaches. And then with a concentrated strategy, you concentrate on just one segment. When you're looking at market segments as potential target markets, a viable target segment has to have a few things in common. It's got to have members with similar needs and wants. It's got to be measurable in size and purchasing power. It's got to be big enough to be profitable, and you've got to be able to reach it through marketing communications. So first thing you're going to do is identify those segments. Then it's often a good idea to come up with profiles. Profiles are descriptions of the typical customer in a segment that's developed. Now let's look at examples of those different strategies. Remember, we've got undifferentiated, differentiated, concentrated, and then I mentioned there was that 4th one, customized. And let's go ahead and start with undifferentiated. When you undifferentiate, you go after everybody. So an undifferentiated strategy is when you develop one strategy for the total market. You go after everybody. Now, a differentiated strategy, this is when you go after multiple segments with different specific approaches. For example, in the detergent market, Procter & Gamble is a major player in the detergent market, but they've got a bunch of different brands: Tide, Bold, Ivory, Gain, Cheer, Dreft, Ariel, Salvo, Pods. They've got a whole bunch of different brands, but they go after different segments and they go after them differently. So that's a differentiated strategy. A concentrated strategy, you concentrate on a smaller segment of a larger market. For example, the restaurant industry. There's the total market, or you could focus more narrowly on fast food, or you could focus more narrowly on Mexican fast food, or in the case of Baja Fresh, focus even more narrowly on the fresh segment of fast Mexican food, so-called fast fresh. Very, very concentrated strategy. Not many marketers use a customized strategy, and this is where you target individual customers. West Coast Choppers would be a good example of this. They make motorcycles to order, so those are all customized, individual. The complete opposite of that is that mass market strategy where you don't differentiate, a so-called undifferentiated marketing strategy where you go after everybody. So that's one of our 4 strategies. The next one is the differentiated strategy where, okay, we've got a number of different segments. We're going to go after several, not all, but several, but we'll have different strategies in place there. A concentrated strategy is when, okay, lots of segments, we're only going to concentrate on one. And then finally, that customized marketing strategy or individualized marketing where you go after individual customized customers. Let's look at it a slightly different way. Let's say that we're a software company. So we are Software Inc. And we've got several different ways that we could segment the market. Now, we could segment by the type of product, software product, or we could segment by the type of industry business to business customers. If we segmented based on the type of product, we could focus on word processing products, or perhaps accounting products, accounts receivable products, or perhaps database products. Or if we were focusing on industry, we could focus on manufacturing, or we could focus on healthcare, the medical industry, or we could focus on education. So right there we've got two, completely different ways to segment by the type of product or by the type of industry. Now, if we are big, powerful Software Inc., we might decide to just, we've identified all those different segments. We're going after everybody. When you've got a marketing profile like this, you are a so-called total market player. You're going after everyone. Now, if you focus on a particular type of product, in this case, I'm just going after accounts receivable, but across all industries, this is generally referred to as a horizontal marketer, where you're focusing on product, across the industries. On the other hand, if you were to focus on a particular industry, healthcare is unique. So we're going to be the software company for healthcare, but we'll make all kinds of different software for healthcare, word processing software, accounting software, database software. This is generally referred to as a vertical marketer. And if we're going to concentrate, hey, we are the specialists in accounts receivable for the manufacturing industry. You, of course, are concentrating. You are a niche marketer. Now, here's a puzzler for you. How about this situation? What would you call this? Now, at first blush, it might seem almost like a schizophrenic marketer, but typically when you get a profile like this, you're a former total market player. You used to go after everybody, but over time you've identified there are areas where you have strengths and there are areas where you have weaknesses, and then you focus on those strengths. So at first blush, that might not seem to make sense, but that's probably how this evolved. Targeting is figuring out which of the segments that you're going to go after and then go after them. Oftentimes what you do is you come up with a unique special position for that segment, and that's the third step in the process, positioning.